Hey everyone, Pastor George here, and today we are going to do the new thing because Wednesdays haven't been touched yet, right? So on Wednesdays we are going to be doing Apologetics Wednesdays, and so if it hasn't come out yet, but it's going to come out soon, I'm sure of it. The newsletter for this month, I talk about why it's so important to do apologetics and my own experience and stuff like that, and I intend this series to kind of be a follow-up to that, where I try and answer or go through common questions. And so I found this list online of 65 apologetics questions that parents should be able to answer for their kids, and I think it's actually pretty good. So I'm going to go through that. And the first question for today was, what are the best arguments for and against the existence of God? And so I actually think I'll do a two-parter on this one. Today I'm going to do against, and next week I'll answer them, right, if that makes sense. And I want to say that I am trying to steelman. I think that's the best thing you can do. If you don't know what steelmanning is the opposite of straw manning. So a straw man is where you present a case for the opposite side, but you will make it look so weak that you could knock it over, right? It's a man made of straw. But if you steelman something, you try and present the best possible case as to why this would be the truth, right? So you try to do your best. Obviously, we all have our own biases. I believe what I believe. People believe what they're going to believe. So I'm sure that this won't be up to everyone's standards, but I'm still going to try and present the best case for the things that I have heard the most. And I'm not like the best thinker on these types of things, but I'm also going to try and relate to what they talk about most, right? So most atheistic arguments today are not made by philosophers, right? They're usually made by scientists or people in other field, so I'm not going to be necessarily talking about Nietzsche or Sartre or Camus or whoever, because they're not really making these arguments. They're doing more philosophical things off in the corner. No, I'm more focusing on what you're going to hear day to day and what other people are going to say to you, probably. So I found three arguments that I think are the best for disproving the existence of God, right? So the first one is, I have them written down here on my sheet, that there is no scientific proof, right? There's no scientific proof for God, and by all scientific measurements, we cannot prove that there is a God in the same way that we can prove some math theorems, or that we can use some method to determine scientifically why something is going to happen, right? You can't say that this thing has been caused by God, or this shows that there is a God. We can't find any type of proof in a way that we would accept for anything else in science that we can find for God, right? So I think that's one of a good argument, and that's number one, all right? And I think I tried to do that. Number two, God is some of them use very derogatory language, but God is a made up concept to explain things in the world, right? So this is kind of related to the first one, but I mean, this is pretty good, because if you look at the ancient Greek and Roman gods, right, a lot of them are gods of stuff, and they created those things, and that's kind of their realm. I mean, in the Bible, God creates the rainbow, right? So people in the Bible thought that was how the rainbow was created, right? They made up this God, they made up these stories in order to show how the rainbow was made, right? But now that we know how rainbows are made, or now that we know all these things, we can kind of dispense of these things. So, Stephen Hawking and Richard Dawkins kind of used the word fairy tale. I don't think most atheists would be that on the nose, but that's what they kind of use, right? This idea that we make up stories in order to prove things, but once we know that how those things are actually done, we can kind of dispense of them, right? And so that's another argument that I think is worth looking into and is fairly good. And third is the diversity of religious experience shows that there is not one true faith, right? And that religious experience cannot be trusted. So if you're going to go out there and say, well, I believe this, and God spoke to me personally, it's so easy to turn around and show all these other faiths, all these other religions that say the exact same thing, right? Why do you think that you're so special? Why do you think that you have this special knowledge that no one else does. So why are all these people wrong? But oh no, you're right, right? So I think that's also a pretty good argument. That's actually the one I'm most sympathetic toward. I think it's pretty challenging that there are all these other ways of looking at the world, and so how do you even know that yours is the right one? And so I'm not going to answer those today, right? I'm going to answer them next week. I want to throw them out there for you guys to think about, for you guys to see if you have any good answers for. And then I'll see you again on next Wednesday, where I'll try and do my best to answer those questions. I've heard some of them before, but I haven't really thought about these quite a lot since, kind of going into seminary, because I kind of got in my Christian bubble. So I think it's important to go back to the basics. So I hope this has been interesting. Think about, your answers to the questions, and I will see you tomorrow for Culture Thursdays, and next Wednesday for the answers to these questions. So I'll see you guys then.